Unhealed Aries Lilith doesn't just sit in their disempowerment. They're still creating. They're still manifesting. They're still moving. Remember, Aries is ruled by Mars, the planet of action. There's no stillness with Aries. Aries is also a fire sign. There's no stillness in fire. Even when fire is very small, even when fire is just a tiny little candle, it's still not still. It's still moving. The fire does not sit still. So you're using the fire to destroy yourself, or you're using the fire to destroy other people. The transmutation of this energy is to use the fire to destroy your limiting self-beliefs, to destroy the limitations other people have placed on you, to destroy the confidence, the lack of leadership that people want you to step into. That is how you empower yourself as a Lilith in Aries. What's up, intuitive healers? How are you guys doing? I hope you're doing well. Today we're getting into a deep conversation about Lilith in astrology. As you know, Lilith is essentially our most raw feminine energy. Lilith is the energy that we get our sense of empowerment from, but it's also the energy that we get the most judged and rejected for. That's what makes Lilith such a conflicting figure in astrology, because Lilith naturally exudes duality. Hi, love. Thanks to the hand heart. Thank you for being here. And people that are healthy have duality. You know, a healthy person doesn't want you to think of them as a nice person, and a healthy person doesn't want you to think of them as a mean person. They're okay with whatever perception you get from them based on how you behave towards them. If you're cruel to me, you should expect me to be more cruel to you, because the only way to ward off cruel people from your life is not by you giving them more love. So a cruel person who, experiences you and they approach you with cruelty, they're not going to get your most loving expression, because they're not a safe person to you. So them not being safe to you is going to generate an energy inside of you that isn't safe towards them. You see how that works? Because healthy people want to live. Healthy people want to survive. Healthy people are not going to lay themselves on the throne to be sacrificed just so you don't think they're mean. Healthy people are going to fight for what's there. They're going to fight for their self-esteem. They're going to fight for their well-being. They're going to do everything they can to protect themselves. So when you're coming at them with energy that feels unsafe and destructive, they're going to give you energy that does not feel very loving. Now, when those same people get encountered by other people who have loving energy to give them, they're going to be very loving. So the cruelty that you may get from that person obviously is going to be in sharp contrast to the love that other people are getting from this person. And all of it has to do with the energy the person is receiving, how they're interpreting it, and how they're responding to it. So to summarize, the figure of Lilith in astrology is your feminine goddess energy. A person who's not capable of embodying their feminine goddess energy, dark goddess energy, and this is dark moon Lilith, this is dark energy. A person who has not empowered themselves with their dark moon energy is not going to be a balanced person. They're not going to be a healthy person, astrologically speaking, because your empowerment in astrology comes from Lilith, comes from your relationship with Lilith. Lilith is who gives you strength. As an example, and I like to expose myself because I want you guys to know that, we're all humans and we all are going through it, and we all have our struggles. For me, my Lilith is in Sagittarius. So what I get punished and judged for is my honesty. People love that I'm an honest person. They love that I'm direct. They love that I don't beat around the bush. They love that I speak my mind. They love that they know what they're going to get from me. However, whenever I perceive them just as clearly as I perceive everyone else and everything else, and I now have to reflect them back to themselves, awareness, my truth now can be perceived as an attack. But if they've been doing their work and they're comfortable with themselves and they see themselves as both light and darkness, which is what Lilith is, sometimes we're not at our best in terms of being able to be balanced, and that's life, right? Not every day is going to be a great day. Hi, how are you, Saskia? Vanderbosch, where are you from? I love your name, by the way. And that's what Lilith is. Sometimes things are positive, sometimes things are negative. All of us should be able to recognize that in ourselves, and that's what a healed person looks like. That's what a healthy person looks like. A healthy person is not 100% love and light or 100% demonic and death time, you know? Hi from the Netherlands. Thank you so much for watching from the Netherlands. But an unhealed person, they think that they're all good. They think they're perfect. They think they have no flaws. They have no problems. You know, they think the problems of the world are all out there and none of them are in them. People who are balanced understand the problems of the world are in them and in the world, because you cannot be in the world and not be part of the world. Does that make sense? It's all of us together who create the energy on Earth. So everything we're experiencing out there stems from within. To summarize, Lilith is conflicting. Lilith is dualistic in nature. Lilith is both empowering and scary. The things that people love about you once you embody your Lilith are also going to be the things that other people hate about you because they haven't yet embodied their Lilith. People who tell themselves their truth always love me. Always. Because there's no truth I'm going to share with them that's going to have them going topsy-turvy. You know, even when they don't agree, they can receive the information and say, I see your point of view, but I disagree, and they're comfortable. However, people who are chronic liars and who lie to themselves perpetually, when they meet someone like me, I leave them feeling very unnerved, because these are not people who live in truth. And I'm a Sagittarius stellium, so truth is my love language. You know, Lilith is also in Sagittarius, so truth is my empowerment. So I don't really like to live in like lies and deceit, because for me, a lot of my strength comes from exposing myself to myself, telling myself the truth about who I am, who I'm not. And I don't see myself as a perfect person, nor do I have a desire to be. I don't want to present myself as someone that has no flaws and doesn't make mistakes and, you know, is always good, because that's not reality. And I don't aspire for that. What I aspire to do is stay in the moment and pick the right answer based on what I know to be true in the moment. And if tomorrow I reflect on my answer from yesterday and realize that that wasn't the best, I make the adjustment and I move accordingly. And I don't have shame about the information that I lacked at that time when I made that poor decision. And that's how I roll. But some people live in shame. So they're allergic to their truth because their truth makes them feel small, because they already feel small. I'm just sharing that with you about me because I want you to know what that looks like in practice. When Lilith in Aries is disempowered, these are going to be angry people. These people are not just angry like, oh, I'm upset, but like rage. You know, Aries Lilith unhealthy is constantly raging about something or someone. These are people that do not have any peace and they cannot obtain or maintain any type of peace. There's always, thank you, lovely Reek, from my finger. Thank you, I appreciate it. Thank you for the gift. There's always something going on with them that's causing them to lose their cool. They're constantly in a state of anger and frustration about something, okay? So that rage can be explosive and destructive, and oftentimes they have no awareness of how they're coming across because they don't know how to manage their emotions. And oftentimes their rage really follows them trying to be cool. And because they have zero emotional regulation skills, they fail miserably trying to be cool. So then when it's time to express themselves, they're ready to set the whole thing on fire. Aries Lilith, who's not healthy, is afraid that people are going to think their feelings are too strong, too loud, too dominant. And that's why they try to be cool. But they think trying to be cool means denying the emotion. When Aries is not healthy, they swing back to Libra, unhealthy Libra. I've said this before. When the zodiacs are unhealthy, they will display the unhealthy traits of the sister. Aries and Libra are sisters. Libra is a collaborator, Aries is the leader. When an Aries is not healthy, they overplay the collaborativeness by denying their truth, denying their true emotions, denying their reality. And they try to be cool, which is what Libra does all the time, trying to be cool with everybody. And unfortunately, when we have feelings that we refuse to address, they don't just go away because we're putting them on ice. They get stronger. And because Aries is ruled by Mars, the planet of war and destruction, when they finally tap into that strength, it's too much. And the fear that they had is actually what they end up manifesting. So what that will look like is self-sabotaging behavior, where they ruin relationships because they can't control their emotions. They ruin situations at work, situations in their marriage, situations with friends, situations with collaborators. Basically, they ruin their connections with other people due to their lack of ability to be honest about the feeling and then figure out a constructive way to manage the feeling. Another thing that happens with Aries is, this one is going to be a little shocking because, Aries can have very vastly different presentations. As I mentioned before, when they're unhealed, they go more on the Libra side, but not the healthy Libra, the unhealed Libra. So an Aries will actually pretend to be a Libra by being impartial. So what that can look like is, I don't need the power. I don't need the attention. I don't need the leadership. Whatever you guys want to do is fine with me. Like, very go with the flow, very accommodating, very I don't have an opinion one way or the other, very in the middle, very passive, very like, sure, you can take credit for my idea. Sure, I'll go with that. And then out of nowhere, this passion comes in and it burns the whole thing apart because that's not their authentic being. That's not their genuine, honest energy. That is a facade that they were putting on because they did not want to be pushed out. They didn't want to be excluded. They didn't want to be judged. And the thing about Lilith is that Lilith will cause you to be judged. Hi, Jen. Thanks for coming to hang out. Lilith will cause you to be judged. Very two-faced, yes. Aries unhealed, very two-faced, much like Libra unhealed. Do you see the similarities? Yes, Aries, you're too much. Yes, you're dramatic. Yes, you're bold. Yes, your energy is too much for most people to stomach. However, that is also your gift. That is also your gift. Some people may be turned off by it, and that is perfectly okay. You're not everybody's cup of tea, and that's okay. But the problem is when you try to morph into something inauthentic, Lilith requires you to be raw and authentic. And that's when we run into issues. I want to talk about how that might look like emotionally, cognitively, and behaviorally for Aries. Repressed anger, right? So we're angry, but we pretend we're not angry. Guilt for being assertive. So when we finally find the courage to stand our ground and speak our mind, we feel guilty about it. Number 3, being afraid of rejection. We're still concerned with what's going on with other people, what other people are going to think, what other people are going to feel, what other people need from us, and trying to play a role so that other people can find us to be, acceptable. When an Aries Lilith is unhealed, they're very much so obsessed with that, what's going on in other people's heads about them, which is very reminiscent of sister Libra, because this is Libra's playing field. What's going on with everybody else but themselves, okay? The other thing that's going on is fear of standing out. Aries is here to be a leader. They're here to be numero uno. They're here to go into uncharted territory. They're here to be the one to open doors that have never been opened before. They are a natural leader as a result. So when an Aries finds themselves afraid of standing out, they're already failing before they even get started. Because the battle is about you standing on the front lines and you claiming your throne and you telling the world how it's going to go. And it's going to go exactly the way you want it to go, because the only way Aries can function is when it's happening on their terms. And that's what it means to be a leader. Being a leader means some people are not going to like you. They're not going to vibe with you. They don't like your vibe. They don't like your energy. They don't like your passion. They don't like your truth. They don't like the way you do things. They think you're too much. They think you're too aggressive. They think you're too loud. They think you're too callous. It's okay. That's who you are. Own it. Own it and refine it. Okay? Moving on to cognitive. When an Aries Lilith is unhealed, they think to themselves, I shouldn't want too much. So basically, they try to downplay their hunger for leadership. These are people that stay at jobs where they feel unfulfilled, jobs where they're not able to move up the ladder, and jobs where they don't have satisfaction because they're not able to demonstrate their leadership skills. And then over time, they start lying to themselves into believing that this low level of, low underachieving, really like low motivation approach to their career, it is really what they want. When we all know Aries cannot function from the back. They function best from the front. They're not followers. So an Aries that pretends to be a follower at their job is inevitably going to have issues, and that's generally a sign that they're not healed. I've had an Aries boss before. This side note about my personal life. One of the best bosses I've ever had was an Aries boss, okay? And that woman didn't have a college degree. From what I understand, she had a 2-year degree and worked at this company. We worked together at this company. It was a Fortune 500 company at the time, 200 something, but now they're like number 6 on the Fortune 500. Excellent company. She got in that company with a 2-year degree and worked her way up, probably because she had issues with leadership, and decided, you know what, I could do it better myself. By the time I met this woman, she was the director of that whole department, reporting directly to the VP of that department. That is the power of Aries. She hustled, she worked hard, worked her way up, and her education became irrelevant because she could demonstrate her ability to lead, her ability to come up with solutions, her ability to make quick snap decisions. And that's the thing about Aries. Excellent instincts as a zodiac sign. They have the very best out of the entire zodiac. So when you put Aries in leadership, they always know the move. They always know the play. They always know at the right time what needs to happen so we can turn things around. One of the best bosses I've ever had, because when she would come up with the ideas on the fly, on the whim, that seemed crazy because it would always be something we haven't tried before, something out of the box. And then she would roll it out and it would land because she knew what she was talking about. She'd been working there for many years and she knew how the game was played, and nobody played it better than her. And some people hated that about her because when something wasn't working, she always knew what the issue was. So she would come down hard on people like, you're the problem. This right here is what's going on. This is where everything is stopped. This is what needs to happen. And then she would immediately, call that person up like right on the spot, because Aries, they don't waste time. Right on the spot, she will get on the phone. Hey, this is a problem. I need you to fix it. I need you to do the blah, 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 blah. Done. And she moves on to the next thing. When an Aries is not in that type of energy, when an Aries is not being a leader, they're not being aggressive, they're not being driven, they're not going for the things that they want, and they're pretending that they're unhappy being unseen, it creates issues. And that those issues start to manifest as low self-esteem over time. Because over time, they start believing they can't do it and they don't deserve it. Lastly, what that low self-esteem can look like is passive-aggressive behavior, which is a hallmark of Libra. When a Libra is unhealthy, nobody does passive-aggressive like a Libra. Nobody. Out of the entire zodiac, nobody. So when an Aries doesn't want to step into their power by embracing their Lilith energy, they behave like a Libra in their weak energy. And a weak Libra is passive-aggressive. Instead of being the lawyer that they're supposed to be in court, arguing both sides of the case so that the judge, Capricorn, Saturn, can make the decision, Libra becomes this sneaky, whiny, manipulative, underhanded energy that's just shaking the table just to create chaos. And that's how an Aries behaves when they're not in their empowered Lilith energy. And those passive-aggressive behaviors, because they're Aries, will turn into outbursts where they will start arguments just to get negativity out of their system, as opposed to taking the more leadership route of actually directly addressing things, which is what Aries is known for, their leadership, the very first leader. In doing so, they sabotage their relationships and their own chances of success and momentum by letting other people lead while quietly resenting them or quietly undermining them. Both behaviors which are not productive, because not only do they not help Aries themselves be empowered, they also don't help the others. Aries is here to motivate others to be successful. Their journey is about their relationship with other people, much like Libra. For Libra, it's about their relationship in terms of romance, friendship, and their family. For Aries, it's all their relationships, because in all spaces, Aries is called to lead. And being a leader requires being transparent, being honest, being forthright, having a spine, and also being kind. And when an Aries Lilith is not healthy, they cannot demonstrate these things. Now, that doesn't mean you have to be kind all the time. If people aren't kind to you, you're not going to be kind to them. But you have to lead with these qualities, because these are natural human qualities that bring people together. Okay? So if you want to know if an Aries is balanced or an Aries is unbalanced, I want you to look at their demeanor in general with their mood. What is their mood like in general? If there's one emotion, and thanks to you guys that are tapping on the screen and that are liking the live, I appreciate it. Thank you for sharing. If you guys wouldn't mind continuing to tap on the screen to wake this thing up. TikTok unfortunately will kick me out after 5 minutes of inactivity on the screen, because they think I'm not here and you're not here. So if you wouldn't mind touching it sporadically, I would really appreciate it. Okay. So someone said they're a Leo Sun, Cancer Moon, and Pisces Rising. Thank you, Unknown, for sharing your placements. Saskia said, exactly. Saskia said, I love how you explain this. Thank you, Saskia, for saying that. I appreciate you. Lovely Reek said, Lilith and Gemini, wonderful. Rue said, Aries big three or just rising. We're talking about Lilith and Aries, but a lot of these Aries qualities you're going to be able to witness at every astrology zodiac placement. Lovely Reek said they're having issues with their Wi-Fi. I hope that you're back on now. Trista, thank you for being the #1 fan in the fan club. Number 5 fan, rather, in the fan club. I appreciate you. Number 3 gifter badge. Thank you so much. Thank you, Saskia, for all the hearts. I appreciate it. And Saskia said, my daughter is Aries and I'm Scorpio. Okay, Saskia. So I'm sure some of this is relevant to you. You know, when an Aries is healthy, they want that power. They want that leadership. They want that drive. They aspire for it, and they're built for it, honestly. Not everybody is built for the confidence that it takes to make a decision in the dark about, you know, what you think is gonna work. And Aries is a natural at this, okay? And Takia said, Aries Sun, Scorpio Moon, and Leo Rising. This is aligning on the Aries end so much. Oh, I'm so glad that this is resonating with your Aries Sun. Thank you so much, Takia Fatima, for sharing that feedback with me. Cancer Sun, Sagittarius Moon, and Aries Rising, as well as Cancer Lilith. Okay, so we still have a ways to go before we get to your Lilith. Because of how in-depthly I'm going into Aries, I'm sensing that it's going to take me a while to get through all of them. And I like being very detailed in my explanations, as you may have noticed. My neurodivergent brain likes specifics. And this is why I often use other apparatus to make sure that I have all the information, because I don't want to give you just generic information. Like Aries, leader, fire, masculine, yes, we know that. What we want to know is, what does that look like? How do I spot when an Aries Lilith is empowered versus disempowered? How can I recognize? What am I looking for? You know, that requires specific fine tuning. And perhaps it's my therapist brain too, because I like to put things into a practical, framework, so that you know exactly what to do with the information. And if you happen to be that sign, you can recognize, okay, so what am I feeling right now at work? Was that passive aggressive? Was that direct? Am I being a leader? Am I trying to move up the chains? What am I doing to move up? Am I sabotaging my relationships? That level of self-awareness is important. If you're not able to utilize the information to actually mold behavior, then I don't see what the use of it is, So moving on to the next person, they said sometimes it's so hard to deal with her, with your Aries daughter. Okay, well, I'm glad I made the decision to focus on Aries entirely. That way I can answer some Aries specific questions for you. I actually want to be more helpful to parents with, zodiac signs of their kids. So I know quite a lot about Aries children and what they need. So if you have specific questions, feel free to ask them. But let me finish reading these comments and then we can circle back. Sun in Aries, Mercury in Aries, so I identify with my Lilith and Leo conjunct my rising. Intuitive School said that. Okay, so you have a couple of Aries placements, so it sounds like a lot of this information is feeling familiar to you because of these Aries placement. Mercury in Aries can be a little tough for similar reasons because, you know, some people are very sensitive. And, you know, how you say things, you know, affects how they receive you. You know, whether or not you are correct isn't always the question, because Aries, being ruled by Mars, is able to get to the heart of the matter. What I mean is Aries is very penetrating. Okay? Aries is the warrior of the zodiacs. And when God made Aries, God gave Aries like X-ray vision that's penetrating. So when Aries understands the matter, they don't understand it superficially, much like Scorpio. They need to go to the heart of the matter, the depths of the matter, to be able to understand it. When you're at war, you want factual information. So Aries cannot function with superficiality for that reason. Libra can, but Aries cannot. So when you have it in Mercury, you know, you being penetrating in your ability to understand and see things clearly can be very unnerving to people who like to lie, or people who don't like the truth, or people who speak just to hear themselves speak, but don't actually like to make sense, and more importantly, to people who don't like movement. Aries, Mercury is very allergic to conversations that don't lead to outcomes. If they're talking to you, they want you to do something with what's being shared. That is the point. You know, I have this placement, you know, as well, not similar, but mine is like third house Aries, which is similar. Like there's some parallels. So, you know, especially with my background as a therapist, the reason I transitioned to being a coach is because I like being prescriptive. Because there's a lot of time that we can save by me being prescriptive, you know. With my Scorpio midheaven, I could usually tell by the third session what your problem is and what you need to do about it. But as a therapist, I have to wait for you to tell me what the problem is and what you want to do about it. Therapy is about leading you to tell me the truth about why you're here. So I have to take more of a passive role, which, you know, obviously working in mental health for 20 years prior to becoming an astrologer, I know how to do that. But in my second act, I wanted to be more direct. I wanted to be more clear, more transparent. I wanted to be more focused, and I wanted to save you time. Why go through 10 years of therapy to tell you something that I can tell you in an hour? And what you want to do with that information is entirely up to you. I'm not pressuring you to fix it, to heal it, to change it. It's your choice. You do what you want, but I am going to tell you exactly what I see, how I see it, and what I think is going to help you. And some people don't like my style for this reason, because they want more cuddling. You know, they want more of the woo-woo stuff, and I'm not doing that anymore because I did that for 20 years. Now I'm just telling you exactly how it is, you know, and you can choose what you want to do with that. So you need to know that having Aries energy wherever you have it means you have power because of your penetration. Do you understand? So when you have it at Lilith, the penetration, when you're exhibiting it in a negative way, is felt the same way. So if you have an issue, as an example, with your job, and you have low self-esteem, which is preventing you from looking for another job because you've already cooked it up in your mind that there's no other jobs, nobody's gonna hire you, it's not gonna work out, and this is all like negative self-talk because of your low self-esteem, you've decided it's not gonna work. But now, instead of coping with that decision that you made, let's say you resent your boss because you hate that your boss has power over you because you really want your boss's job and you don't think they're doing a good job and you want their job. Well, what do you think that will look like with your boss at work when they're trying to give you direction? Can you guys chime in? So you're unhappy at your job. To summarize, you're unhappy at your job, but you have low self-esteem. You don't want to look for another job because of your low self-esteem. You've already decided it's not going to happen. So you've decided that you're stuck and you're never going to find another job, and this is just what it is. and you have decided to redirect this anger that you have towards yourself because of your low self-esteem onto your manager. So now you're angry with your manager about your predicament because deep down you want to be your manager. You want your boss's power. You want to lead. You believe you would do a better job at leadership than your manager. Obviously you can't tell them that, but that's what you know. So how do you think you might communicate with your boss when they tell you to do things? Now I'm going to be quiet and I want you guys to write that in the comment section. Hi, Creme de la Creme. Thank you for being here. Thank you for all the likes, the Intuitive School. I appreciate it. Yes, I love coaching and I'm so glad you're also a coach. See, Aries, Mercury, coaching. It makes sense to me because Aries is a general. Aries is a leader. Aries is a war general. They're very good at giving direction. And they have spectacular instincts with that. So, you guys tell me, how do you think you might react to your boss trying to tell you what to do, given the scenario I just described? When your boss tells you what to do, and when they tell it to you in an authoritative tone, which sometimes bosses do, you know, they don't say please, they don't say thank you, they basically order you to do things. How might you react to that? Anybody who wants to take a guess? Hi, Amanda Jo Newton. Thanks for being here. Hi, CX Limit. Thanks for being here. Peace and love, your topic. Hi, 999 The Truth. Thank you for being here. The topic today is Lilith in Aries. Yeah, Takia Fatima said annoyed and would probably do it half-hearted with resentment. Thank you, Takia Fatima. That's exactly how I would feel. Do you think you might even be tempted to do things to irritate them on purpose? Hi, Crispin. Thank you for being here. Hi from Canada. Hi, Amanda. Thanks for being here. Creme de la Creme said no. Hi, New York Flower. Takia Fatima said yes, as an Aries I would. 999 The Truth said unconsciously self-sabotaging. Yes. Hi, Amanda Davis. 450 thank you for joining. Yes. Thank you, Takia Fatima, for being honest. This is what Aries debases themselves to when they're afraid to own their power. Because now we're in this space where I want your job, but I don't have it. And I resent that I don't have it. But I am unwilling to be a leader in my life and make decisions that will put me in a position to have your job so I can be happy. And all this is stemming from me having low self-esteem and low self-worth. But you don't know that. I may not even know that I have low self-esteem and low self-worth. It's not like I woke up and I was like, I have low self-esteem, I can't get this job. But I have concocted this story that reaffirms that I've given up on myself, that I see no other possibility for happiness. So I have, I've decided that this is about as happy as I'm gonna get. I've essentially accepted that misery is my mission with work right now. So now I resent you. When you ask me to do things, I do it half-hearted. And sometimes I even do passive-aggressive things to highlight your mistakes so that I can make myself feel like I am better than you. I have as much power than you. Or maybe I have more power than you. I point out your flaws to irritate you because I know that you're my boss. But if it's a mistake that you made, I know you can't deny it. But I'm doing these subtle things just to remind you that you're not as good as you think you are. You're not as powerful as you think you are. You're not as great as you think you are. And I see you, and I don't think very much of you. I don't think very highly of you. And that's why I keep reminding you of your flaws, because I want to make you feel small, because I feel small. I feel small and I feel stuck with you, and I resent you for that. Even though you have nothing to do with why I feel stuck with you, but I resent you for that because I am unwilling to exercise my powers of leadership by choosing to be brave and courageous and go for the things that I want. And I'm looking for someone to blame, and you just happen to be the person because I have issues of leadership. Aries, when unhappy, does not respect leadership at all, because they're here to be a leader. Whenever you see Aries, Cancer, Libra, and Capricorn not respecting leadership, you should already know these people are unhealed. Because these are the leaders. These are the leaders of the zodiac. So a leader who does not respect leadership obviously is not in their purpose. Because you came here to be a leader. So what do you mean you don't respect leadership? That's why you're here. Why did you come here if you're not working on becoming a leader? And leadership starts from within. And Aries that is in their healed energy in that situation is going to fight to find another job so they don't have to keep dealing with this leader that they think is incompetent. They are! Because the alternative is simply unacceptable. The alternative for Aries would be accepting defeat. The alternative in this situation is Aries saying to themselves, I'm defeated. I'm weak. I'm unable to perform. I can't get what I want. I lost. I give up. These are statements that an Aries should never make in this life or the next. Because that is against their DNA. They were made to win. They were made to get the things they want. All they need to do is really believe in themselves and fight for what they want, and everything lands on their plate. Because Aries is actually the most spiritually protected zodiac sign out of everybody. Why? Because they're the infant. Do you think newborns are passed around to everybody? When a woman first has a baby, you think she's just giving her baby to everybody? Like, go over there. Yeah, you can go over here. You can go, yeah, hold the baby, kiss the baby, play with the baby. No. In many traditions around the world, the woman and the baby stay inside the house without going outside for a long period of time. Purposely for the protection of the mother and the baby. It's not really about the mother, it's about the baby. Aries, who has faith in themselves, is an unbeatable force of nature. And perhaps next time when we meet, instead of moving directly onto Taurus, now as I'm saying this, I would like to actually do some research about Aries people that are in the public arena who have this energy, so you can see what I mean. Because the story of Aries is a story of overcoming tradition to step into something out of water of sorts that they manifest with, that they legitimize, essentially. Aries will take an idea that is weird and uncomfortable and unheard of, and they will legitimize it. Because of their drive, because of their passion, because of their determination, because of their belief in self. That is essentially all that is required for an Aries to succeed. Because being ruled by Mars, they have the drive. They have the passion. Usually what's missing is the confidence. And they'll never admit it. And every time I bring this up, they get mad. They get mad at me. Aries get mad at me when I talk about their low self-esteem, insecurities, issues. Aries, you don't need to be mad at me. All the leaders struggle with low self-esteem and insecurities. Aries, Cancer, Libra, Capricorn, all of them do. You're not alone. It's just because you're the baby, you get it the most. You're the most untrained out of all of them. You're the least matured out of all of them. So you're going to make more mistakes than the others because you're impulsive, just like an infant. But that's your gift. It's the curse and the gift. I need you to understand that. So you're supposed to do things that irritate people. So you can't take it so sensitively when people get irritated that you're doing the things that irritate. That's what you do. Do you think when a baby is crying for 2 hours in the middle of the night that the mom is just like, oh my God, this is so delightful. I love this. This feels great. Such good vibes. Oh, I want more of it, please. You're demanding. You're impatient. And everything with you is 0 to 100. That type of energy is not energy that people who are not mature can handle. It takes a mature person to handle your energy. Immature people are going to have issues with your energy always. Because the mature people, they're going to give you grace. Because they know that you make mistakes as you're figuring this thing out. But most of the time, your ideas land in spectacular ways. Not like little bitty ways, like explosive ways. I can't get over this, and I'll leave you guys with this before I take your question. There's a show on Netflix that I like watching, not because I want to live in a mansion, but because I love watching beautiful things, okay? It's a real estate show that showcases the extravagant houses around Los Angeles area. It's two boys, they're twin boys, and they started a real estate business from the ground up, just the two of them. Before they started the business, and they're both Aries boys, before they started the business, one of them was sleeping on the couch of the other one because he didn't know what was going on with his life, what he wanted to do. And it was while staying on the couch of his other brother's house that he decided, hey, what if we start doing real estate? What if we start buying properties and we start, fixing them up and selling them? And here we are years later. I don't know how long they've been in business. Does anyone know who I'm referencing before I say the name? And then after that, I'm going to actually Google how long they've been in business so that I have, more information to add to this conversation. Does anyone know? I'm going to let you guys figure that out. Let me look them up. You forgot their name. So the name of their company is the Oppenheim Group, okay? It's a luxury real estate brokerage that was founded in 2013, and they've been in business for approximately 12 years. Yeah, on Netflix. Yes, it's called Selling Sunset. Selling Sunset. And they called it Selling Sunset because of Sunset Boulevard in LA. So if you guys don't know what I'm talking about, go look up Selling Sunset. Not Property Brothers, but Selling Sunset. And I looked up their zodiac sign because when you watch the show, or me, when I watch the show, I can feel their Aries energy. Sometimes when I watch shows, like people's energies hit me hard, and then I become curious. So I'm a fan of the show. Their energy hits me hard, and then their energy hit me hard, and I became curious. So I looked up their zodiac sign and realized they were Aries boys, and I was like, that makes total sense. Of course they're Aries boys. But the story with them is that granted, their great-grandfather had another company, a realtor company in LA, in Hollywood, and it goes back to like 1889. That's kind of their legacy. But they had to start this from the ground up. And in doing so, they basically brought their legacy back to the present. Because imagine that. Your family had a business in 1889, and then fast forward to 2013, you and your brother start to reopen or open up your own and keep that family business going. That's the kind of stuff that Aries does. They do stuff out of the dark. They do stuff from instincts. They do stuff that most people think will fail because their ideas are original. Their ideas are a bit controversial and unusual, but that is a part of their charm. And when they're confident, they don't mind that it's weird because they're like, you know what? In time, you're going to see that it's not weird. You're going to see that it's not weird in time. And in time, it ended up not being weird. It's very lucrative business. Let me see, what is their, how much do they make a year? Let's see what their business is worth. Let me find out, just out of curiosity. Their business has over 3.5 billion in total closed sales and 500 million active listings. So 3.5 billion in total closed sales. Now, this is relevant to me because I'm sure when one of the twin brothers was unemployed and on his brother's couch, living in their tiny little studio together, twin boys, I'm sure it was hard to imagine that one day this real estate idea that he had 12 years later would be worth 3.5 billion. That is the power of Aries. Whenever they believe and they put their drive and their focus and their energy and they keep hope alive, which happens here, and their faith is rooted in them getting what they want because they're an infant and they deserve what they want, the universe will shift things around and align things just for them to get what they want, because the universe can't let the infant go without their basic needs being met. And Aries, one of the Aryan basic need is the right to confidence, self-assertion. That is a gift that naturally is given to Aries. God wants Aries to have self-assertion. The universe wants Aries to have courage and autonomy and drive and the opportunity to decide for themselves what they want and what they don't want. All of that is their birthright. It's in their DNA. The problem starts when Aries lacks confidence and chooses to do things that betray their DNA, their authentic expression, their authentic essence. At that point, they're displaying to the universe that they no longer trust, they no longer believe they deserve. And when they start behaving as if they don't deserve, then they get abandoned. Lilith chooses to reject social norms in favor of what feels true for her. When you happen to have Lilith in Aries, the intensity of what feels true to you is so real, so raw, so powerful that it's either you're going to use it to create the world that you want to live in as an empowered being, or you're going to use it to destroy other people's dreams because you have lost touch with your own. There's no in between. When you're Aries, because your energy is naturally destructive, it's either you're gonna fight your negativity, your low self-esteem, and your lack of confidence, and prove to yourself that you can do hard things, you can do uncomfortable things, you can do awkward things, you can do things that make you feel scared and come out on top. So it's either you're gonna use that destructive energy to destroy the negativity that lives in you that keeps you small so you can be great, or you're going to use that destructive energy to destroy other people's dreams and other people's energy to keep them small because you feel small. There's no other way around it. What questions do you guys have about this placement? Thank you so much to all of you who've come to hang out. Thank you for all the likes. I appreciate you. Thank you for all the love. The intuitive school said, I would love to know their degree theory, especially of the one that had the stability. Yeah, you know, the twins, one of them is a little bit more withdrawn, like shy. I'm sure he's not really shy when you know him because, you know, Aries, but one of them is more like quiet. And the other one is very talkative and very outgoing. Like he gives Aries from a mile away. And the other one is more withdrawn. I don't remember who was on whose couch, but if I had to guess, I would say the one that was outgoing was probably on the couch of the one that was the more withdrawn one. Because that one is a little bit more like calculated, more strict, more settled, more regimented. And the outgoing one is just like, he goes with the flow and he just has a good time, you know, like he's true Aries. He's in the moment, he's moving, he's shaking. What made me actually look up their chart was because one of them started dating one of their employees. And I thought to myself, what type of zodiac sign would be comfortable dating a subordinate at work? And he was an Aries. And I was just like, that makes sense. And Aries, of course, will date somebody at work. Some zodiac signs could never in a million years consider dating a coworker because they do not piss where they do not make their what is that, what's that expression? They don't keep their honey where they make their money. Some zodiac signs have very rigid boundaries around their money because they don't play with their money under any circumstances whatsoever. But in Aries, yes, they will take that chance. Yes, because Aries is risky in nature and that's part of their charm, right? Don't piss where you sleep. Exactly. You know the expression. Yes. Some zodiac signs are very strict with that, and some not so much. And Aries is not one of them that's strict with that. But that's kind of what got me curious, because I was thinking, you're a super powerful man. You have all this wealth. This is a televised show that people are watching all around the world. Why would you want people to know that you sleep with your employees? Why would you want to put that out there? What kind of zodiac sign will be comfortable putting that out there? So that's what led me to Google it. Alright, so somebody said Aries Lilith conjunct Aries Ascendant. Ooh, you're an Aries. That's a lot of Aries. How does this affect how Aries Lilith shows up? Good question, Siobhan. This makes it even more apparent for you when you're unbalanced. So if I was working with you as a coach, I would recommend that you stay in your true Aries energy, which is leadership energy, that you own your emotions, which is at the root of Aries issues, and that you really get better at communicating your needs. You know, if you ever find yourself in a position where you can't speak your mind, you can't have an opinion, you can't disagree, then you know you're not in the right place. Because wherever you are, you're supposed to speak your mind. You're supposed to disagree. Aries energy is fighter energy, so you're there to shake things up, whatever space you're occupying. But if you're female, there is an art to doing that, where you don't send everybody's scalp like rolling off of their head. Because, you know, women are not expected to be strong. You know, men are very threatened by powerful women. That's just a reality of the patriarchy. So Lilith, when she's developed, she understands the patriarchal rules, and she navigates her environment to get her needs met without violating herself. The problem with Aries Lilith unhealed is when you accept that self-violation. Basically, you choose to do it to yourself, which is where the self-sabotage comes in, but then you don't want to take responsibility for the fact that you did it to yourself, and you want to blame other people for having done it to you, which keeps you from growing. Because you're not recognizing the mistakes you're making, so naturally you repeat them. I just made a video actually that I posted today about some zodiac signs who struggle with understanding rhythm, with Aries being number one on this list, because they don't understand karma. Aries struggles to understand actions, consequences. Actions, consequences. So naturally, they often get perpetually caught up in a cycle where they're doing things that do not give them the consequences that they want. And instead of looking within to see how their behavior is playing into it, they want to blame the world. And blaming the world won't fix any of their problems, because the world is the way that it is. It's not changing. So if you can't change the world, what you can do is change yourself. And many Aries people struggle with understanding personal accountability, personal responsibility, which is required to be a leader. You have to be accountable as a leader. It doesn't mean you can't make mistakes. But oftentimes there's so much deep-rooted shame with Aries that when they make mistakes, they'll much rather focus on something else instead of actually facing it, staring at it, and then choosing something else. You know, they can be very hard on themselves when they make mistakes, and that's why they like to avoid it. But when we avoid acknowledging the mistake, we also avoid learning the lesson. And learning the lesson is what makes us more powerful. It's not running away from it, okay? Saskia said, exactly, my daughter does things without thinking about the consequences. Yeah, that's very Aries. Aries does most things without thinking about the consequences. They want what they want, they decide what they want, and they go for it. They don't think 2 steps ahead, let alone 3 steps ahead. You know, Aries is a very first leader. So their leadership is all instincts. It's not about foresight. By the time an Aries becomes a Capricorn, who's the oldest leader, Capricorn has a backup plan for a backup plan. In fact, there's so much strategizing with Capricorn that we've lost the connection with the sensitivity of the task. It's all about implementation and goals and outcomes and charts. You know, Capricorn is very structured, very rigid. Aries is still in their feelings about leadership. It's very primal for Aries. Leadership is primal. It's feelings based. It's all in the moment. So a lot of the work Aries is here to do is not necessarily change themselves into somebody that's like Capricorn, but it's more about thinking about how their actions affect the people that are around them, and how to be a better team player. You know, Aries struggle with team because they only think about themselves in almost everything they do. And this is why I like for Aries to be in positions of leadership, because leadership teaches them that it's not just about them, it's about everybody. It's about the whole system. And when you're put in that position, you have to think about other people, whether you want to or not. So you might as well get good at it. And the more Aries starts to think about other people and how their actions affect other people, the more refined of a leader. That's basically it. Thank you so much for giving me a chance to go over Lilith and Aries and how that can show up in its disempowered state, and what Lilith and Aries can do to empower themselves to be more effective at manifesting their dream life and manifesting all their desires. The universe loves you, Aries. It's very protective over you, Aries. That's why you come from the planet of war. That means when people mess with you unfairly, they don't get away unscathed, because you carry war with you wherever you go. That war can be used to your advantage, can be used to make the things that you want to happen in this world. But it requires that you believe in yourself. It's okay to feel scared. It's okay to feel nervous. As a Capricorn stellium, I still have a lot of times when I'm nervous, when I'm scared, when I feel unsure, when I feel insecure about my choices. But the difference is I actually face that discomfort in myself. I'm okay going, oh, I'm so nervous. I'm so uncomfortable. This makes me feel like my skin is crawling, you know? But this is what I have to do if I want to grow. This is what I have to do if I want to develop. This is what I have to do if I want to last. You know, there are things that we all have to do that don't feel good, that make us better in the long run. And all leaders have to do that, because leadership requires that you be comfortable with discomfort. Okay? And when you do that work willingly, Aries, by the time you graduate from Aries to Taurus, you would have already put in some of that blood, sweat, and tears into understanding that life is not all about being comfortable. A Taurus that is underdeveloped, they think all of life is about being uncomfortable. Literally. They think that's the reason they exist. So when they're required to do things that are uncomfortable but that will make them better, before they even consider the idea, they're ready to throw it out because it doesn't feel comfortable. We're not here to be comfortable. We're here to grow. All of us. We're here to grow. And growth is synonymous with discomfort. It just is. I don't make the rules. The more you can accept that you have to do things that are uncomfortable, and the easier it's going to be for you to step into that discomfort for your sake, for your own goals, for your own drive, for your own desires. This is about making you better. It's not about anything other than that. Okay? Someone said I needed to hear this. Thank you. You're so welcome. Someone said, will you be communicating other signs soon? Yes. Next time we meet, I'm going to bring some examples of Lilith and Aries that we can talk about, so you can see how these people manifested that energy into their lives. Because I think sometimes it's helpful to have other examples to look up to. It doesn't have to be like look up to in terms of like, oh, I think they're without flaws, they're perfect, I worship them. But it's just inspiration to understand what it looks like when somebody's in that energy. Saskia said, all the love and respect to you. Thank you so much, Saskia. This was great. Thank you. Thank you so much. Siobhan said, I've been in leadership role for 3 years now, and I've grown tremendously since then. Oh, I'm so happy for you, Siobhan. Every Aries needs to be in leadership role, especially if they have Lilith. They're excellent leaders. This is why, you know, Lilith is both is such a complicated figure, because if you can overcome that fear of being rejected for that thing, then you become the very best of that thing, and that's how it works. Someone said, thank you, this came at a perfect time. Thank you so much for watching. We're having an Aries moon transit soon, so this is great energy for that. Take care, guys. Have a wonderful rest of your weekend. Bye-bye. Thanks for coming to hang out. You can book your astrology reading at intuitivehealing.com. You can also watch videos at Intuitive Healing here on YouTube for Astrology 101 content. Listen to the Aquarius podcast on Spotify, as well as here on YouTube for your horoscope. If you're interested in astrology and love connections, you can visit at Styled Under Libra. And of course, for health and wellness and holistic healing, visit at Styled Under Virgo for all of your astrology content. Thanks so much for watching.